Senator Joni Ernst joins us now. Thank you for being with us. Senator, you met with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and I think you said there was not a dry eye in the room, nor should there be when the topic is murdered children. What was that meeting like?
It was very intense, Trey, and thank you for having me on. The delegation met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Senior Advisor Ron Dermer, and we expressed our solidarity with Israel and the people of Israel. Shoulder to shoulder, we were one. And as Prime Minister recounted the terror and tragedy that so many of those families went through, all of us were very, very moved by that. It was an emotional meeting. And again, we need to stand firmly beside the Prime Minister and the people of Israel. And that's why you saw 97-0 in the United States Senate, the resolution of support coming from the United States to the people of Israel.
Senator, based on your trip and what you've learned since then, what does Israel need? I know that they are grateful for American support, but in terms of tangible items, what does Israel need? And does it require congressional approval, given what's happening in the House right now?
Well, Trey, when we were there, it was 3 days after the terror attacks on Israel by Hamas. And at that time, the Prime Minister and his team, they were compiling a list to send to the United States government. We have since learned of many of the items that they will need. But of course, they will need things like the interceptors for the Iron Dome. Many of those were expended during those terrorist attacks and in the days and weeks now since. But they also need intelligence sharing. That is something that our agencies and our armed services can provide without actually putting troops on the ground necessarily with their IDF. There are other things that we can do as well. Aid is substantial, but I always say we should be supporting weapons, not welfare. And certainly what they're asking for are those very real items, the military interceptors, the munitions, anything we can provide from our military to theirs, we are happy to support.
Senator, let me play a clip from one of your colleagues and then ask you a question about Iran on the other side.
To Iran, enough. You're the largest state sponsor of terrorism. You got American blood on your hands. This could not have happened without your support. So my advice to the Israeli Defense Forces, do what you have to do to protect your country who's under siege.
Let me ask you, rather than Senator Graham had advice for Israel, if President Biden were to ask you, Senator, give me your thoughts on how we should handle Iran, what would you tell him?
Oh, I feel very strongly about Iran, Trey, and we need to be enforcing the sanctions that are already in place. And the message to Iran should be stop funding these terrorist organizations. They need to do it now. They are the ones that fund 93% of Hamas's activities, 100% of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad's activities. They also fund Hezbollah and the Houthis. We need to push back on them. So not only my message to Iran, but also to President Biden, enforce the sanctions. They are in place for a reason, and yet this administration refuses to interdict the oil that continues to leave Iran. They're at a 5-year high as far as oil exports. That should not be happening. We should not be continuing to have discussions with Iran on a nuclear agreement. That should have gone out the window a long time ago. So not only is the warning to Iran, don't mess with Israel, don't mess with the United States of America, but it should be to President Biden as well. Stop pussyfooting around with the Iranians. It's got to end.
Senator Joni Ernst, not only a U.S. Senator, but also a soldier who understands war and what is likely coming in the Middle East. Thank you so much for joining us on a Sunday night.
You bet, Trey. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.